I'm fine, Tuesday Miles. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a couple good weeks here, and we seems like we haven't been on the show forever. We weren't here last week. It was Easter. I hope everybody had a great Easter weekend if you celebrate it.
Yes. Well, I tell you what, I had a great Easter, although we had a little snow, and it was unusual, but a good one. And I do hope the listeners had a nice Easter as well.
Well, it just seems, here it is. I'm here in 85-degree weather, and you're over there in snow, and it just, I always say that, that ain't right. That ain't right. The fact is that we're getting into spring, and everybody's got spring fever. You can sure tell that. They're tired of being cooped in the snow and all that cold weather, and I feel sorry for all those people who had to deal with that flood.
Oh, I know. A lot of flooding in Missouri. And there's still a chance of additional flooding going on. So we'll just have to send our thoughts and prayers out for those people that are struggling with the water right now.
Yes. Can you give our listeners where they can catch our show at and our website?
Certainly. Well, if you are listening to the show, you may also wish to visit our website at portaltalkradio.com to learn more about today's guest, Jackie Salvetti. Now, Jackie is a BBS radio show host, and she's also the owner of the first ET healing clinic in the United States. You may also wish to visit the live virtual auditorium on paltalk.com under the social issues in the Paranormal Radio Network room. Portal can be heard on AOL Radio, MSN Radio, BBS Radio, and Live 365, just to name a few. This show is also available for podcast. Back to you, Tuesday.
Hello.
Yes, back to you.
Thank you very much on that one, on it. I'm sorry, I got distracted. I heard a huge explosion outside, and I thought, oh, no, there's another airplane going down someplace here on it.
Ooh.
We want to send also, too, and if everybody, just take, a minute, a couple seconds, whatever, and send out some love and healing and prayers to one of our guests, Pamela Heath. She had a very tragic event happen in her life, explosion in her parents' home, the loss of one of her parents and another parent who is really clinging to life. And so if you could just take a moment today and send her and her family some healing prayers, we'd really much appreciate it. We love her as a guest, she's a friend, and we wish her all, all the love and healing that we can give her.
Yes, definitely. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family and, of course, Pamela. So, very rough, very rough.
Very rough, very tragic in itself. And, that's the thing. We just never know when something that's going to happen. And when it does, it's something very hard to, to get over on it. But on that note for it, I wanted to talk about, Angela, I belong to this group where I get these emails on a daily basis. It's a site where mothers or fathers can send and they ask advice about their children. Mm-hmm. And I have noticed over and over again, it seems like there's just a huge amount of parents talking about their young babies, waking up all the time now at a certain age. This is all ages. Actually, it's really not one certain, age up to about, I think about 4 or 5 that they were talking about it. But their babies all of a sudden just start waking up in the middle of the night and being, not able to comfort them. They seem to be afraid. And, the fact is that we've had so much documentation about children, babies, seeing spirits, seeing ghosts. And, whether it's their guides, whether it's the grandparents, whether it's something that's visiting them, and these babies are seeing them. And, I'm just wondering, the fact is that how to educate these parents that if they've done all the ABCs and rule out some that it's not anything else, or it's just the normacy of the kid growing up, that there could be something to it.
Well, I believe that there is a lot to it, Tuesday. And, of course, depending on the age of the child, how do you comfort one still in the crib? You understand what I mean?
Right.
But perhaps you should offer some information on the portaltalkradio.com site. Something that will educate the children out there not to be afraid of spirit. I know that personally you have raised your 2 children in a house full of spirits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true.
And so they're not fearful any longer. But, I can imagine how difficult it is for a child who automatically, goes to bed and may think, there's something under my bed or something in the closet, how a child's imagination can carry on. And then to suddenly see a spirit, wow, goodness gracious.
Of course,
no wonder
right.
they can't go back to sleep.
Well, I wouldn't be able to either. But the fact is, too, and also receiving emails about, parents that their children are starting to show signs, and yet the parents are highly afraid of it, and here it is, if they have their child, I mean, their parents aren't, they don't experience utilizing their gifts, but the children are now doing this. And, Sassy makes a good point in there. It could be similar to the thought that they are supposed to be so many crystal children or the indigo children. I mean, there's a big subject on that. We should have a guest on that it can explain exactly what it means by being a crystal child or indigo child. I know that I don't know a whole lot myself about it, but I know that what I have researched in it, that they are very unique kids, very stubborn kids, and it seems to be that they are really in their own world. I mean, it's not the same as being autistic or anything, but it's just a very neat type of kid. But often they're found to be put on medication or that there's some mental disorder with them, and it's not the case.
Well, that's true. Well, there is a book out called The Indigo Children by Lee Carroll and Jan Tober. And so it is talking about the new kids that have arrived. And we see more and more articles out there with children that are coming into their own gifts, and it's very difficult for parents who do not understand what is going on. And imagine how difficult it is for the child to explain to mom or dad that this is happening to me. I ran across a young lady several years ago. I would say she was about 10 or 11, and she had to have been an indigo child. This girl's wisdom, I mean, she spoke as though she was a 60-year-old woman.
Wow.
And she spilled out a lot of spiritual thoughts and made a lot of spiritual comments, and I was just flabbergasted. Of course, her parents were in tune with, psychic matters and the intuitive and God and things of this nature, but she was absolutely amazing.
Well, I always believe kids need to be kids first. I mean,
How do you be a kid first,
well,
though, if you're experiencing all this?
Well, that's true. That's very true, and is it ethical of our higher power to include gifts, as a child? Because, hey, these kids belong in the playground. They don't belong dealing with spirit at 2 or 3, 4 years old. They just don't, what's the purpose for it? I was thankful that the fact is that I did have gifts as a young child. I believe that they were activated as I was born, and I also was grateful for the fact is that it just came in kind of waves where I didn't seem, they weren't so prominent that where it disrupted my life as a child, that I was allowed to be my own child sense, and then things I would notice on it, but then again, I didn't recall back some of the, I would say, events that I had with spirit up until into my adulthood, and after, again, when my gifts, to me, reopened again in a kind of, slamming way. But then now recalling back as my experience in childhood, and for example, on this one time where I was swimming at this lake with my mom, and she had her friend and some other play group friends that went with us, and it was like a slow motion where I see this young boy go running into the lake, and I just felt like something was going to happen with him, and I had this little styrofoam surfboard, and I went ahead and was on that paddling around, and I can remember in the slow motion when I'm looking at him, and I see him hit like a hole, where there's a hole there, and he went under. And he tried to come back up again. You could see his hands, but there were so many kids that were splashed around, and I kept looking up at the beach to see if somebody was going to come get him, and nobody was. They didn't notice he had gone under. And, and it was just so slow motion, because as I paddled towards him, and I remember looking over and looking down, and he was down underwater. He was pretty down there. And I thought, okay, you're not going to come back up. So I just, and like I said, this happened all in such slow motion. And I just kind of slid off my board and went underneath the water, and I just grabbed him by the hair, and I just pulled him up onto the board. and he started coughing, and he was, you know, he looked like he was going to start crying, and his blinking his eyes. I mean, I just said to him, well, I won't tell on you if you don't tell on me. You know, and you know, get off my surfboard, and I'm on my way. But I could tell, as I recall now, that I knew ahead of time this boy was going to go under. You know, and I watched the event. See, you know, back as a child, I never mentioned it to my parents. I remember telling my sister on the way home from the beach, but I never did tell my parents about it. And you know, and I just really didn't know how to explain it. That I seen this child go underwater before he was even in the water.
So, do you find that that's pretty typical of children today?
Well, you know, I mean, it's kids don't want to make any kind of ruckus around them. You know, they don't want their parents to pay attention more than they have to. You know, and the fact is, they're not sure themselves that it's real. You know, so, you know, I often say, too, if, you know, these baby monitors are great. These baby monitors really do pick up, you know, any type of EVP sounds that are in the baby's rooms or the kids' rooms. It's been recorded and documented over and over again where the parents would say, well, we heard somebody talking to the baby in its room through the baby mic. And they'd go in there and there was nothing there. And, you know, and it startled them like, okay, who was that? You know, and often it was, you know, whether it was a grandparent visiting them from the other side or it was just, you know, something, but they've, you know, picked it up on the EVPs, which, you know, I have found out, which I did not know myself. There's two different types of EVPs. There's the electronic voice phenomenon.
Right.
Okay, which is actually picked up on a recorder.
Right.
Then there's the AVP.
The AVP. Now, explain
audio
AVP.
Voice phenomenon, which happened to us a couple weeks ago when we had Dan Gordon on the show.
Yes.
We were towards the end of the show, and I have that EVP for us to hear today, and we'll play that one. And I have another one that I caught last night.
Last night? What happened last night?
Well, you and I were talking on the telephone, and we were discussing my son. And after we had hung up, I had got up and went to my computer, and I thought I was going to do a little bit of filming. I had felt a couple ghosts around in the house, and in fact, my daughter was sitting at my computer helping me do some work, and she looked up, and right in front of her was a woman. And she goes, Mom, do you see that? And I went, yes. First of all, Angela, I said, you see that? And she says, I see that. And I thought, oh, this is, you know, my daughter and herself, you know, and we always considered herself, you know, an empath, and she senses things. She reads photography really well on her gifts, but her sight hadn't picked up yet. It just really hadn't gotten. So last night was really a validation for her and I both that her clairvoyancy is setting in. And I thought, oh, here we go, you know. And she just sat there and I says, are you afraid? She goes, oh, no, not at all. She just kind of waved the lady, go away, I'm busy. And I just thought, okay, well, there you go. Well, she doesn't have any fear, so that's a good thing on it. But anyways, after she had left, I did some filming, and as I was playing back one of them, I hear a little boy talking in it.
So you saw the woman, the two of you saw a woman, but you heard a little boy.
And then we heard the little boy. Now, we weren't filming right there when the woman was right there. That could have been a couple minutes later. But what he had said, though, in it, we're not sure the first part of it. We're not sure if he says, I am lucky or I am, it's like either lucky or dirty. It's got the D and the K in it. That's for sure we think it is. But then he says, and I am disabled also.
Wow.
So it's, you know, this is the thing. Does it creep you out? Does anybody else get creeped out when you are recording spirits' voices and you do hear them? Does anybody else practice getting these EVPs? Because I have to say, Angela, you know what, they really do communicate through these recorders.
Well, I'll tell you, for the listeners out there, if you have recorded EVPs or even AVPs, please forward it to info@portaltalkradio.com, and we may play it on air.
Yeah, sure, why not? You know, but this is the thing I have to say, though, and whether this is true or not, but it's been documented, and that if you're going to play an EVP out in an audio where it's in the open area, you want to warn your listeners or the people around you that it can increase ghost or spirit activity around you. They are very much drawn to it. I believe the fact that because of the frequency that it is on, because there is a frequency that these EVPs come from, and that it can and does increase activity around you. So when we're playing our EVPs today, we've only got 2, but it's your choice whether to keep the sound all the way up if you want to. Put headphones on. Headphones are okay, but, you know, here's the thing. I'm going to put it out there for it, and I give it to you, your choice. At least I warned you ahead of time.
Well, I have to ask a question, though, Tuesday. Would that individual have to be on the same frequency continuously in order to have any sort of activity from an EVP by listening to it?
Well, you know, that's a good question. I don't really know how to answer that one, Angela, because, you know, I mean, we're having a guest on in a couple weeks who is a pro at getting ghosts to speak to her through these, you know, recorders. You know, and maybe she is on that frequency that she has met with them, you know, because we have to meet that balance. You know, if we're going to actually get any kind of communication from spirit anyways, we need that balance. They, you know, of course, they're on a higher level, we're on a lower level, so it's us raising our level up, their level down, to meet that balance together, and, you know, and there's that connection with it. That's the way, the fact is, to get really good communication from spirit, is that you've got to meet that balance in between.
Certainly, certainly. Well, you know, I think that the majority of people out there are not on that frequency, and therefore they are not aware of the spirit activity around them, because it is my belief that there are spirits all of the time in one's environment
everywhere,
and around them, and they just don't take notice of it because why? They're not on the same frequency. Now, occasionally they may experience something spiritual or some sort of phenomenon, but it's not a consistent thing. So therefore they try to talk themselves out of, you know, that experience. I really didn't experience that. Maybe I nodded off. Maybe I'm just tired, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. You know, this is okay. Wait, I have to comment about this because we have Dancing DJ in the room that says, you know, a ghost is an energy with no IQ. Well, that's funny. They say the same thing about us.
Well, you know, there's a difference between, though, a ghost and a spirit.
Yeah.
Because a spirit does have the intelligence to be able to communicate, whereas a ghost is not able to communicate. So we may see a ghost, a figure, or, you know, an apparition, but there's no communications going on, whereas spirits have the ability to communicate, you know.
Well, they're dead. They're both dead, and the fact is
they're both dead.
Yeah, that separation of word. Now, they say the fact is that, you know, ghosts being earthbound. Okay, there's that word again, earthbound. Take it as what you want to believe in the word. But, you know, the fact is that they are on a lower level. You know, if you're seeing something in an apparition, you know, and the fact they notice you, I consider them more earthbound. I consider them not transitioning in through the light. That's what I consider what being earthbound is. The fact is because their vibration is actually lower. You can pick them up more versus spirit, where you're getting more of the message through telepathy. They don't record through that. Mm-hmm. Now, you're saying just the opposite, right?
Well, I'm not saying the opposite. I'm just, you know, you're talking about earthbound, but I'm talking about, you know, spirits that are able to communicate, that, you know, they notice you, they want the attention, they're trying to deliver some sort of message to you, or at least to communicate with you. And whereas a ghost, you know, is just an apparition that we see, there's no communications going on, there really isn't any attention towards anyone, they're just sort of there.
Right, okay, gotcha on that one. You know, I also spoke with Jack Rourke, who Jack has been a past guest of ours, and he brought something very interesting up, in which I haven't got a chance to research or look for one, that there is a gadget out there that can balance the EMF in your home. Now, the EMF is the electromagnetic field.
Right.
And there's supposed to be some type of gadget out there that is installed that can, for some reason, balance the EMF.
Well, I want one.
Well, you know, I've never heard of such a thing, you know, and we spoke about the fact that a lot of, you know, spots in my house where I do have activity is really located near something that would have EMF, which could be anywhere from TVs to microwaves to stereos to computers to your, you know, anything that's, you know, basically electronic that uses this, I guess gadget, or what is it? Gadgets, or it's not gadgets. It's the wrong word I want to say.
Well, the thing is that EMF is a natural thing in the environment.
Yes.
And so it doesn't have to be, generated from any sort of appliance or electrical thing. It can be, coming from the ground, but, EMF comes from the sky on down, comes from the universe on down to Earth. And so collectively, though, it can be more EMF in one area than another. And, there was a program on, I want to say, Discover Channel.
Discovery Channel, okay.
Discovery Channel, where a Georgia family had a lot of spirits in their house and outside the house, and the young teenager was the first to notice. And when they brought scientists out there to say, hey, what is going on here, they found an enormous amount of EMF on the land, where their house sat on.
Right.
And so they believed that because there was a large amount of EMF, that was the explanation of why they were able then to see the spirits.
Okay. Well, at least they got the answer they were looking for on it. And maybe, I don't know whether there's some kind of gadget out there that's going to be able to change the EMF in an open area, but at least that, I am going to look into it to see what this kind of gadget would be called and exactly what it can do. So I'll have to update
We'll find out, and we'll put it on the website for those people to access.
Yeah, because, of course, Edison is not going to disclose yet. The fact is that they can prove that EMF is harmful to our health. Of course, they're not going to disclose that. They have, I'm sure, tons of lawsuits, but they don't agree with it. They feel that they haven't had any documentation that actually was 100% proof that electromagnetic fields can cause illness.
Well, here's the thing. For the listeners, when Tuesday was talking about Edison, that is a utility company in California, and Tuesday's neighborhood has a high rate of cancer patients, of cancer history. And so she has been proactively trying to get them out there on a month-to-month basis to record the number of EMF figures coming off those meters.
Right. And it's weird about it, though, Angela, what they're kind of stumped about is because when they're at ground level in this area, they're getting a below reading, which means that they're kind of stumped because they usually don't get that below level reading. But when they climbed up on the pole, of course, it tripled. Well, that's, of course, because they're near the electrical lines. But when we had last week or a couple weeks ago when we had Joey Korn on the show, our dowser, I took my dowsing rods, so I went out and played with them a little while, and I noticed that when I was walking east-west, and I would reach a certain house, the rod, only the right rod, would seem to start spinning. And spinning and spinning, and it would not stop. And I thought, well, that's really strange. So then I would face south-north. Now, that's when, oh, wait, let me back myself up, because it was when I faced south-north in front of a house, that's when it would start spinning. And I thought that was really odd. I walked down a couple other houses. Now, what was interesting, too, is that the house that I was in front of had experienced some sort of illness, whether it was cancer, whether it was heart disease, whether it was something significant in a large scale as far as something that was, enabling them in their medical conditions. But, it wasn't every house that I was getting the spinning. It was just certain houses.
Well, the more information you find out about this piece of equipment that would help to neutralize EMF, let's place it on the site, because I'm sure that there are other people out there whose neighborhoods are just as active with EMF as yours. And I know from viewing a video of yours on YouTube Tuesday that there were literally thousands of orbs coming to your house towards you.
Yeah, there was.
And so, you have to wonder what others are experiencing out there, and maybe they are frightened of this sort of activity.
Well, you're going to get that debate about the orbs, though, Angela. But the fact is that orbs can be anything these day and ages. There was, thousands and thousands of them. And is the fact that every single one of them is going to be spirit? No. But the fact of it is that, and I'm one of those too. When I really see an orb, you have to say, what, you have to break down the rule of thumb of it. Is it just, particles in the air? Is it just lint? Is it just wind? Is it something? I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can consider. Is it moisture? There's moisture orbs. And I did, like I said, we talked about that 3-year study that I did with orbs. And we've had a guest on the show that was supposed to be an expert on orbs.
And is still an expert on the orbs.
And then here's the fact is that you get, usually to me, if it's going to be something like, for instance, a truck had gone by and, of course, kicked up a lot of the dust. And then I took some pictures, and there was, again, thousands of orbs there. Now, I knew that that truck that was passing had to do something with it. So they weren't authentic. Maybe there could have been 1 or 2 of them that could have been spirit. But, but just doing the process of elimination with the orbs. You take a picture in your house, all of a sudden you find one orb. Okay,
well, but here's the thing. We know that there's dust orbs and water orbs and, all sorts of orbs, spirit orbs naturally we know about. But, Michael Ledwith was the guest on the show that was an expert in orbs, and he had a co-author that was a physicist. And through some research, Tuesday, I have to tell you, I have found more physicists out there that are coming out and saying that some of these orbs that we are looking at and photographing are actually beings from another dimension.
Oh, yes, the ETers.
Really? Beings from another dimension. Now, it's hard in my own personal belief system just to kind of grasp the whole concept, but anything is possible in this infinite universe.
That's the thing of our show, Angela. Everything, we leave it open for everything's possible, and yet, I myself am learning. It's a learning process with the information that I'm being taught about extraterrestrials. To me, it was a very frightening subject at first. I had an experience that just scared me to death, and left an impression, as far as they go. And then again, when you hear these stories, I mean, my God, these, there's one thing that you get some people that will listen to one person's story and then make it their own, and then repeat the story that they've had the same experience. And, but the fact of it is, these people who come in and they share their stories about their abductions, about their being a contactee, and there's just, and I guess because I have heard some horrible stories that has happened to them, it did put that fear factor in me completely, but I have to thank a couple people because, they've really worked with me through this, and not to lose the fear, to lose the fear in regarding it, to be okay with it. But there's so much information about, extraterrestrials, and really find that credible site where you can go in and research, and they have, and I'm going to suggest ICAR too, because ICAR really does have, the founders of ICAR, Joe Montaldo, his wife Linda, plus a long list of people that are involved with ICAR, have really done such an excellent job in keeping the public educated about this. And this way, what better else can you deal with something is to be educated about it. I hear their stories about being frustrated about the government not stepping up to the plate and acknowledging this, but you know what? If we keep dealing with somebody that doesn't want to have any part of it, we're not getting anywhere. But to really take your time and energy and promote the people who do, and and support them, because they're the ones that are doing all the work. The government's not going to do squat for us. And I was going to say the crap word, but they're not doing crap.
But we have to look at it from the government standpoint, and I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
Okay.
Because I believe that a lot of citizens would become very panic-stricken if they had the government out there to say, yes, absolutely, we have many decades of documentation on UFOs and aliens, and we've been working with, aliens from another dimension. I mean, can you imagine the hysteria? Because, people go in their day-to-day lives with their own belief system, and, they have their blinders on about many things, are very happy-go-lucky, and then to drop a bomb such as that on them who are not open-minded and don't care to know, they don't want to know. Can you imagine? Now, what was the name of that radio host years ago that did the whole war on the worlds and, pretended like there was aliens from Mars coming to the United States and killing off people, and it caused such panic that people literally listening to the show went out and some of them committed suicide.
Yikes! On that, and this is Orson Welles. Is that
Orson Welles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, TR. On that. You know, this is the thing about that, and I've actually accused other people of doing that, of planting stories just to scare people. I mean, but these people, they really do. I mean, this is a fact. Is you're going to have to weed out the ones that are doing that, and the ones who are not. You know instantly when you're finding a site that's credible. You really do, because you can tell how much work they put into it. But this is the thing, you're going to use your own opinion on it, and that's all you can say about it, I mean, they can give you and educate you with their stories that they've experienced. I mean, this is what I like to see, is people who've experienced it. But, generally over, I know that I have seen something. I don't recall no communication with it. I wasn't abducted, and, if you want to call it a contact, or maybe it was a contact. But I didn't I didn't experience anything horrible about it. There was nothing that I would think that they, put some kind of rod in my head, or I won't even mention the other spot where it's been known at. But, Angela, the fact of it is that it was very gentle, and there was no threat to it. It did, I would say, up my anxiety a little bit, but I think that as soon as I started feeling a little anxiety about it, they left. So, I mean, but this is the thing. If they just want to learn from us, or if they just want to learn from us, or just want to teach us.
I believe it's teaching, because, years ago I read a book called Aliens Among Us. And the entire message throughout the book was that there were other, beings from other dimensions that had made contact with Earthlings to teach us about technology, to teach us about peace. And one of the things that in the message of the book was to say that, those living on Earth have found ways of war and destruction and pollution, et cetera, and that those aliens were here to teach us to get along and not destroy the Earth, because we know that we all have, not all countries, but the United States, for example, has a device that would literally melt 8 miles into the Earth. It's a nuclear device. And so, if we went into a war, a nuclear war, then it would affect Earth, and if it affects Earth, it's going to affect the other planets and stars around us.
Well, that's not a good thing.
So now, while we're thinking, talking about aliens among us, do you know that Discovery Channel and Discovery Magazine actually had a series called Aliens Among Us? And what their message was is that, they believe that, the RNA-based predecessor from DNA is actually what is responsible. And one of the things, for those who have taken biology, is that RNA is an unusual molecule, and it can store both genetic information and it can act like an enzyme. So, it can cut apart other molecules or it can put them together. And so I was very fascinated that the Discovery Magazine actually ran a series on Aliens Among Us, and those that are theorizing that it's all based on RNA.
Okay, Angela. Now this is something that you've been studying, and I'm on the need to know basis on it, because because that just went. I'm not going to say it flew over my head, but I'm sitting here going, I think I need to research that a little bit more, so I need to understand what you're talking about. That's a big subject.
Well, just you can go to the discovermagazine.com site and plug in Aliens Among Us and read on it. And, they will bring basic biology in there.
Okay.
So it's very, very interesting. So today's guest.
Yes.
Jackie Salvetti.
Yes.
Now, she is a BBS radio show host, and she has a show called E.T. Healing.
It's very successful also.
Very successful, and she also has the first clinic in the United States sitting in Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, yeah.
Under the same title, E.T. Healing Clinic. What do you think about that?
Well, I went in and read all over her site, and there's a lot of interesting information that she has on there. I'm looking forward to asking her more questions in regarding this. That, if the fact is that, is it that ET is our healing source, or, that they just help us to understand and utilize our own power to heal? But interesting enough that I think that with Jackie's work, she's, bringing something forward that people can maybe get help on another level. That if the case that there is such a thing as ET healing, and she claims that there is, I would think if I was a medical doctor, that put me out of business.
Well, I don't believe that it's going to put any medical doctor out of business, because we have to stop and think that the majority of people would not naturally accept healing from extraterrestrials, right?
Right.
Many people say, I'm going to go to the physician of choice. I don't believe in all of even natural healing, and we know that there's big business out there for alternative medicine. So some people would not seek alternative medicine if they can just go to a physician, get an injection or a pill or a piece of paper to say, yes, ma'am, you are indeed sick.
Yes, really. On that, well, it's just, like I said, if you'd like to go to her site at www.ethealing.com and read up around her site. It's just, I have to say too, I have to compliment her on the sound that she plays in the background. Mm-hmm. I found it to be extremely calming and actually quiet myself down. And I noticed that when I did sit there with my eyes closed listening to it, I kind of traveled a little bit when I was, it's very calming and relaxing. I wouldn't call it music. It's just kind of like a waves of sound.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a lot of questions to ask Jackie Salvetti today, and hopefully we can all understand a bit more about the goal of extraterrestrial healing for the universe.
Right. On that note, though, I want to play those EVPs before we get out of time here on it, and if we can get Joe, our station manager, to play Dan Gordon's EVP, and it's going to play, I think, about four times straight in a row, and you let us know what you feel, what it says on it. And this is from the show a couple weeks back that we had Dan Gordon on as a guest. He's the author of Haunted Baseball, where he went out and documented the baseball fields that were having some hauntings, and the opinions and quotes from the baseball players. If we can get that played.
Okay, is that something on your end? No. Is it you, Edward? No. What was that mean? Oh. Okay, is that something on your end? No. Is it you, Edward? No. What was that mean? Oh. Okay, is that something on your end? No. Is it you, Edward? No. What was that mean? Oh.
One more time. Okay, that stumped him, because he was like, no, that wasn't on my end either, and he didn't know what to quite to say afterwards on that. That was very loud in the phone when we heard that.
Yes, it was during the show and interviewing Dan Gordon when this AVP, this sound, came out, and it was absolutely amazing. Now, part of that, the latter part, sounds like "Leave Me."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I can't make out the first part, but the second part sounds like "Leave Me."
Right, and I'd spoken with Dan afterwards and asked him if he had any type of a program that was on during that time. He said no, he didn't. He was not even online at the time that went through. And you and I don't have any sounds on my computer.
Nor do I.
So, and plus my again, my stereo or my computer speakers were not even on. There was nobody else in my house for that, for them to even get on the phone to do that, or someone behind me. So, we did the rule of thumb, which we eliminated our processing of this to see if it was anything else but that. And we're going to determine the fact is and document it as an actual AVP, an audio voice phenomenon. And that's the first for us for that to happen, and I'm sure, hopefully, it won't be the last.
Well, at least we have it on recording.
On it, so yeah, but it's very strange. We know it did say, leave me or something in regard to that, but we don't know what the beginning of it. Okay, it was. We're not sure what it says, Linda. Linda's asking in the virtual auditorium here is what was it saying? We're not sure the very beginning what it says, but we do know that it says leave me.
Definitely.
On it. Okay, so now we're going to play one more, and this happened, like I said, last night when I was sitting here doing some filming, and I didn't hear it myself when this little boy said this, but that I noticed when I did a playback that I got this little boy talking to me and it caught it up on the audio. Now, Angela and I were talking on the phone and regarding a disability within one of my family members, and I believe that this little boy was commenting on it. And Joe, go ahead and play that. Turn it up a little bit if you can. Yeah, it's very low. Joe, can you see if you can kick that up a notch on it and see if we can play that one more time? Yeah, I could barely hear it too myself on it. We can see if we can get that better on that.
Well, you can definitely make out it is a child's voice.
Yeah. Well, hold on, let's see if we can get that up a little bit louder. Let me see what I can do here. 1 second. Okay, did you guys hear that better?
Yes, heard it better. Can
Okay.
you play that one more time,
Okay, let's
though,
play it one
Tuesday?
more time. Hold on. Okay, here it goes. Okay.
Did it say Durkee? I'm disabled
That's
too.
what I thought it said. Okay, Durkee. You heard Durkee or Ducky? Well, we weren't sure what it was saying on that. I mean, we really weren't on it. We could definitely hear it. We definitely could hear it say, "I'm disabled."
Right.
On it, but the very beginning, we're not sure what it says on it. And I tried to look to see if I had a program that I could slow it down a little bit. I wasn't finding my program, so
Wow.
we'll have to see if maybe we can find. I'll have a friend or so, or somebody that could slow it down a little bit to see exactly what he says in the very beginning.
Well, that's absolutely amazing, Tuesday, that you were able to get it on film.
I mean, it was very clear, like I said, when it said, "I'm disabled," and I thought, and of course, when I played it for my husband, he goes, "That was right here," and I went, "Uh-huh," and he goes, "Where?" "Where?" And I'm like, this is the thing is that obviously I have a little boy that's running around here, and he was listening to my conversation earlier.
Which you and I were talking about Nelson's health condition.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, and then going to explain to us that he was disabled also. So, I mean, that, Angela, this is the part where I shake my head and say, that is absolutely amazing. That it's the documentation, the proof that we have. The fact of it is that when we die, there's still ways of communication. That is proof in itself. We don't die. Maybe the body does.
Well, you know what the thermodynamic laws say, and that is that energy does not die, it only transforms.
Oh, you know what? Amazing.
That is a scientific law, thermodynamic, law number 1. Energy cannot die, it can only change forms.
It can only be created, yeah. It's just amazing on it. And this is the thing about, you're going to get some paranormal investigators out there that is for the thrill of it all. Of course, it is a thrill. But generally the fact is that, most of them are really involved in the scientific, method of this, the proof of the documentation, to help people who maybe have had lost ones and they're on the other side, to help them cope through this, to, let you know, basically, hey, this is not the end of your life. This is not the end of your existence. It might be the end of your body, and some of us would be gladly to give up some of the bodies that we have. Can we put the order in for, like, new bodies that we come back, maybe in reincarnation, that we have everything we get? Can you give me a better gene next time, But this is the thing. Amazingly enough, that they're still communicating from us on the other side, and there's proof. There's proof in itself, because I know myself there was nobody around me last night when I was doing filming, and my kids were both in their rooms. I had, my doors shut when I was doing it. It just wasn't a process of elimination. It wasn't anybody else.
Well, your children are not that young either.
No, they're not. They're not, thank goodness, on that.
So this sounds like a very young child.
Absolutely, on that. So we've got a few more minutes before we bring in our guest, Jackie Salvetti. Yeah, absolutely, on it. And also, I wanted to let our listeners know, anybody out there that's in California, I know that we have a lot of listeners in California, but let them know about this. There's a new TV paranormal show coming on, and they're looking for a home in California to investigate. Now, I'm not sure. I know that Chris Fleming, who was on Dead Famous Live and amongst a lot of other ghost TV shows, he is part of this. And if you have a haunting in California, you need some help, you want to be included on this television show, you can email Portal, and we will set you up with the people who are looking for new clients.
Well, that's very nice, Tuesday. A lot of people, I'm sure, would appreciate the help of having a paranormal investigator and psychic come into their home and let them know firsthand what is what's going on, who it is, and what do they want, and will they go away?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. It's like we have our own free will and our own stubborn minds. But, I always say, if you got a ghost that really you don't want in your place, don't forget that you also have a say-so. You have your own power. Don't give in. Don't be afraid. Stick up for yourself. You would do that normally if there was a burglar in your house. Do the same as if there is an intrusion of a spirit or ghost. Stick up to yourself and stand up to them, and don't back down. Get out of my house. You're not wanted. That's it. There's the door. Get out.
Well, Tuesday, I have to, kind of debate that a little bit with you, babe, because it depends on the type of spirit. You know for sure that if there's a demon, that demon's not going to go anywhere because you tell it to get out.
Oh, well, there's that difference of opinion.
See, I'm a big believer on good versus evil, and I know for a fact that there are demons out there.
Okay, well, see, now, is that your demon that you know what it looks like, or is it that we each have our own demons?
No. I'm telling you, there's demons out there.
Okay.
And I've had one experience when I was a younger person, and which I've never talked about publicly. And so, we'll have to bring on a demonologist, and I also have been speaking with a very popular reverend, and he is an exorcist. And we stopped to think, most exorcists are those Catholic priests out there, but there are people such as Ron Buell, this particular reverend, and some good light workers out there doing exorcisms responsibly, and but at least to address demons, because here's the thing: we talk about spirits on the show all of the time, and some of our experiences with spirits, and our listeners' experiences, but rarely do we bring up the experiences of demons. A lot of people are kind of closed-mouthed about that because, number one, it's very fearful, And secondly, how in the world would they ever prove it or address this unless they bring in the powerhouses? And the powerhouses are literally those spiritual individuals that perform exorcism.
Yeah, but that's the thing that you just said. Prove. You got to prove. I mean, I myself, if I would need more proof. To me, so far, that having a kid that's acting out because the fact is he's got, he's being picked on or there's some issues going on with him does not deem him to be, possessed, and the exorcism has to be performed.
No, but exorcisms are not always performed on individuals. Because we think, automatically that exorcisms are because one is demon-possessed.
Very true.
There are environments that have demons in them, which has not taken on any sort of possession of that individual. And so they are showing themselves. And I know that, you recently, over the last couple of months, had spoken to an individual that described her own demon in her house when she was a young girl, and did not the family end up seeing this demon?
Yes, they did. They all did. They all experienced the same. What they called was a demon. Yes, and explained it as being the typical looking demon. I mean, with the hoofs, with the half man, half body kind of look to it, with the snarly looking face, long fingernails. I mean, to me that's just typical Hollywood. A look that they would put in a movie. But it's. Then again, they all seen the same one all at different times. They experienced it all at different, occasions, and experienced the same thing. Now we've all heard that ghosts can turn themselves and make themselves look anything they want to. Is
right.
It a fear-based haunting? Is the fact is that there was documented deaths on the property before they had moved in there. There was some rituals that they felt that there was done there, and maybe the fact is that there was something that was banned, what they call banned from this world, had come back. So I just think I just keep myself very critical about the demon sense of it. I'm not one to believe in the fact the word demon. I know that there's negative entities out there. Sure there is. That's ridiculous if we don't think there is. There is. The fact is that is it the protocol demon which they describe in the Bible? Is it the demon that they describe on television? I don't know. The fact is I don't put a whole lot of belief system in there. To me, you put your belief system there, then you just create what you need. And it's just, I don't go there with it. But I allow you to have your opinion on this, and our listeners too. This is the one subject that Angela and I both debate on.
I'm very passionate about it. So we'll have to have a show just devoted to demonology, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm really trying to pull in those experts out there to bring them on the show. And not all of them are, biblically based. Some of them, have been to, homes that have had demonic activity in there, and, it's not for the faint-hearted.
No, it's not. Well, it's not a pretty subject. I mean, it's it's a very annoying subject, I mean, the fact is that people who surround themselves, they want to surround themselves with good thoughts and happy things and pretty things. And here it is that this is not one of those subjects, and it's disturbing, and people become very fear-based when it's spoke about. And then again, there's that other, the other, side of our listeners where it's thrill. They want to hear something that has to do with that. And a lot of the TV shows out there do deal in showing that stuff, and they get listeners from it. But, hey, it's your own opinion on things. Like I said, I mean, it's just as what, and I have to say because I love him to death, it's just like Peter James said, as in life, like in death. If you're going to be, an awful person, evil person here on here, you're going to be the same when you get on the other side. And I think that's what we're dealing with. It's the fact is, it's not that I'm believing or going with what Peter believes. It's just that it's my own opinion on it. But, hey, Angela, I mean, maybe one day that I hope that I don't need to experience that hoofed, half-body, horned, ugly face.
Well, see, here's the thing, though. I agree with you, and I agree with Peter James on the, like in life, like in death. Mm. However, demons are not those, people that have passed over.
Yes, and we're going to break.
We have demons that are, totally not of this world.
Yeah, we're at break. Going to break. We'll be right back. and welcome back. I'm your host, Tuesday Miles.
And I'm Angela Thomas.
And Angela, we have our guest on the line, don't we?
We certainly do. Hello, Jackie Salvetti. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, ladies.
It's our first ET lady.
That's what you said earlier?
I
yes,
did. I'm excited. We're really excited. You know, I mean, this is a subject that Angela and I both were talking about, that we have this very slim education on it. And, you know, and this is also, too, the fact is that when you hear the word extraterrestrial, you know, it used to be where people would be highly afraid of it, and it seems that we're getting used to it more and more.
Well, I think that the idea is that this is the gradual preparation for contact. And it's done in a very loving and kind way. And, you know, I really would like to explain, if I could, that it's been interesting. My co-host on my radio program has worked with her guides for years. She's done like 10,000 readings. And only after we got together that they explained to her, because she always thought that they were masters or whatever, that in fact they were also of extraterrestrial origin. So a lot of people are in contact with beings on the other side of the veil, presuming them to be something other than they are. And there is no separation on the other side of the veil. We tend to group everything because our consciousness is designed to be in separation. So we tend to group masters over here and angels over here and, oh God, ETs over here.
Right.
But the truth is that nothing on the other side of the veil is separate. And people have been in my healing room, children especially, have seen Buddha sitting there. They've seen angels. They've seen all kinds of manifestations. So, you know, I personally have come to understand this as being all one, that creation is all one. And our, you know, something that was said in, I think it was Down the Rabbit Hole, that what is created together is forever intertwined, which means that we are always connected to all of creation. There is no real separation. And, you know, when we start, you know, we're just having a hard time as a species right now starting to think globally.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, now you start thinking universally, and in my work, I work multi-universally. So it has been an incredible expansion of understanding that, in fact, nothing is separate. And the variety, oh my Lord, the varieties of manifestation on the other side of the veil, and I have seen beings that are just a beam of light, you know, kind of walk by. I have come to understand, because so many observers come in, that the universe is just absolutely ripped with everything imaginable. And they are funny, they are loving, some are very serious. But, you know, my experiences have been very, very loving, incredibly loving, very fun, very exciting. We do a tremendous amount of work in the emotional body. And this has been the anathema for beings on the other side of the veil, is that human consciousness is designed to experience itself as separate. It is the only, and I repeat this, the only manifestation in the universe that sees itself as totally separate from everything else, okay, and from its creator. And what it took to create consciousness this way is so amazing as an experiment, that when you understand that, then you understand what difficulty we've had trying to pierce the emotional body to kind of backdoor into humans to help unravel all of this. It's really been fascinating.
Do you think that some of the emotion roller coasters that we go through are part of our lessons? Or is it something that is actually just something we just need healing from? That it's not supposed to be that?
And that's a great
okay.
question. And here's what I'll say, is that it was never supposed to be this difficult on Earth. That one I can give you as an absolute statement, okay? It was never supposed to be this difficult. What happened is it became a contained, kind of self-defeating situation. And, you know, did other races interfere? You know, I'm always careful because I don't do the scary stuff. I have learned over time that is, I meet all races with respect, regardless of what their intention. I meet all races with respect. We know that there have been about 21 different races that had to do with manipulations and different things with our DNA. So we're a conglomeration, and we actually carry DNA from about 21 different races.
Wow.
Now,
Are you? Did I understand you to just say that we are carrying DNA from 21 different races?
Yes, you did. I know that's a lot to swallow.
It is. Well, now I understand why I tan easy.
Right.
That aspect, but it really makes a lot of sense, though. It really does. I mean, on it, and so when you made quite a large move, I mean, where you lived at, you upped and moved to Las Vegas.
Well, that's an interesting story. I had lived here for about 12 years. I had a large metaphysical group of about 60 people, and I died. And I was dead for about 2.5 hours. And I mean, I watched myself die, and I literally it was one of those very strange situations where I knew I was going to die. I prepared to die. I wanted to die. And I came out of my body, watched myself die. And when I came to in a totally different location in the house. And I had been very, very ill. And it was really quite a fascination, and so it took me about 3 years to come fully back into the body. And so I moved, as a result of this death, I moved to California. And when they came in, they wanted me to move back to Vegas. They had sent me here about 2 years earlier. My daughter was residing here, and had me do some things with the earth in terms of opening keys and codes, which at the time I really didn't understand. I was just instructed to do it, and I did it. Again, this is our planet. They can only act through us, okay? There has to be a level of cooperation, and from the best that I can tell, okay, and I was thinking about this morning as I was walking, I do my miles in the morning and at night, that I came in to experience all levels of human emotion. So I lived in 13 foster homes and had every kind of variety of emotional experience that you can just about imagine. I always knew I was being prepared. I just didn't have any clue what for.
Right. We have a virtual auditorium too, Jackie, and a guest is asking, who is they? They're asking, who is they? Who are they that you're talking about?
Well, that would be, when I say they, I would say, I call them the team.
Okay.
This is a real interesting, I work with so many different races that it would be difficult for me to say, other than when all of this happened, I was taken before what I perceive is a council. Now, we've all heard this expression,
Okay.
the high council, this high.
But
This was of a number of races that I couldn't even begin to describe the numbers, okay? I had, and I hesitate to tell people this because it sounds so self-aggrandizing, and please know that it's not. I don't usually share these kinds of things because I think, oh, Lord, people are going to run away with this, or else think I'm a nut.
Right.
But during this experience, and again, it may be perceptual, I had Buddha on one side, Christ on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And which I did not understand why they were with me. I just knew that I was there, and the entire council laid out, because it's all telepathic, my entire life.
Okay.
Explained how, what contacts I had had and why, what my preparation was for, the decision I had made prior to coming onto the planet, and and they made two comments. They said, two things had to happen before you could come forward. One was 9/11, and the other one was the Da Vinci Code. Now, this kind of boggled my mind, because I was like, what? And as they explained that 9/11 shocked the consciousness of man, it made it more malleable. The Da Vinci Code kind of created a crack in the whole feminine, and the divine feminine. It interestingly enough, has kind of empowered and resurfaced Mary Magdalene in the whole fact that we lost in our collective the powerful feminine. So what they said to me is, had you come out any sooner, all right, you would have been debunked. People would have tried to debunk you. You would have lost heart and stopped doing the work. And they explained my death, that I needed to connect more totally with my soul, et cetera, et cetera. This has been a really big endeavor as far as I can understand it at this point.
Well, I would assume that as time goes on, that you learn, as you get more contact with them, that you're able to separate on who's who. Do they explain to you where they're from and what type of species they are or beings they are?
Yeah, they're from everywhere.
Okay.
The Andromedans came in, I mean, I had always been in contact. I didn't understand it. I think it's really interesting because the way my website reads is this just happened to me. But the truth of it is that I've always had contact with other beings. I just didn't understand it, even though I did see extraterrestrials, but I didn't always identify them as extraterrestrials.
Right, of course, yeah.
And it was interesting because whenever I traveled or went anywhere, they were on my car and they were around me, and my son used to laugh about this, so did I. And, and I don't want to set myself up as being somebody very separate. From the best that I understand, the work that we are doing right now is to gather up all of our star friends, okay, that are here, and you're all star people. All of us are.
Right.
Nobody's just from Earth, okay? And help launch them into their great work. Help undo the emotional damage that they've all gotten locked into, so that they can step forward into their great work and reach as many people as possible.
Yeah, you mentioned that there were also to help us achieve to live longer. I mean, you quoted on here that up to 250 years old.
That is the goal.
Can we still function at that age?
Well, the goal is to reverse the aging process.
Okay.
And, what we know is as our frequencies lighten up, again, our biggest block, okay, to lightening up is the emotional body. It's all the damage that we carry and all the stuff that's programmed in. And so when yes, the answer is yes, we can.
Okay.
And we will do it younger, not as old, wrinkled, decrepit people. That's not the goal here. I work with a lot of young people, and we're working on age reversal and rejuvenation with the young people to be certain that they don't. I mean, they've got the easiest track.
Right.
Okay, we don't have to reverse
right.
age.
People pay a lot of money to go back and look 30 and 35.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Jackie, you said that you're working with young people to reverse the aging process. Are you doing that through your healing, or are you, bringing in HDH, or exactly how are you going about that process?
We're doing it through the sessions.
Okay.
And, my answer to that is this. And believe me, this has been a process, an evolutionary process. I should answer your question directly first, okay? In order to do that, now, you remember that the younger people are not wired as tightly as, let's say, we are. And I'm sure I'm older than both of you, okay? And they're not wired as tightly. Their emotional bodies can shift much more rapidly. But a lot of the people on the planet, so we can go further, let's put it this way, with the younger people. I have younger people, and I'll say from 40 back, okay, that we're working on, and I have some people older than that we're working on healing not only human lifetimes, but cosmic lifetimes.
Okay.
And because from what they have explained to me, just as we are trying to integrate our subconscious, unconscious, child, adolescent, integrating all of our pieces and parts to become more whole, the entire universe is in the process of doing this. And if you could think of the universal spirit in the process of integrating all of its pieces and parts, which means it's integrating back in all of the division of all the races into one. So our sense of separation from all things is in the process of coming together as one.
But how do we accomplish that, Jackie? I mean, given that the majority of people here on Earth have very little knowledge, if any, regarding aliens or anything that you're saying. And so how do we bring that togetherness there, and how long would you say that those ETs are saying that it will take?
They can't predict that. Nobody can predict even how our ascension process is going to look because we haven't written it yet. I can tell you this.
Okay, so Jackie, I want to go back a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
with your first experience. Okay, your first experience as an adult. I understand that you had been in business, in real estate, and with oil companies and things of this nature. So you're riding along in your normal business life, and then you receive this communication.
Well, okay, you want me to go back?
Well, what I wanted to ask you is, how did you go from Jackie's typical life to being cooperative with ETs?
Overnight.
Overnight. And what would motivate you overnight to do that? Because I know personally, if I were to receive foreign communications with something that was not quite, a concept that I could wrap myself around, I don't know if I could do it overnight. What caused you to make that decision overnight?
I had a knowing, and, I've looked back at this so many times. I remember being out on the golf course with my girlfriend saying, when they make their move, I'll be the bridge. I have no idea where that came from. I seemed to have known that this was my destiny.
Well, I don't think you felt a threat from it at all. I mean, I think
I absolutely felt no sense of threat whatsoever. And I had a sighting in 76, and I had my children in the car, and we were in the middle of the desert at night, and a ship came over, and it was very typical. I mean, this was right out of a movie, okay? Thank God I had my children as witnesses. The lights went off in the car, the music went off, the engine stopped.
Right.
And the ship came right over my car. I mean, I could have rolled down the window and touched it, but I wasn't in such panic. And they communicated into my mind, we mean you no harm. And with that, they passed over the car and took off.
Oh, cool.
And that started me on a search from that point forward. And what was interesting, I started interviewing, we had a big real estate company at the time, all the pilots, because we were by a military base, and I wanted to know. I really wanted to know. But what was interesting is from that point forward, people would bring me manuscripts and all kinds of things about extraterrestrials. It came to me out of the blue everywhere I went. People would hand me books, strangers. I mean, this was a constant thing. That never went away. And I would throw this stuff away. This is how funny all this is. I'd throw this stuff away. I was like, why me,
Right. Of course, absolutely. The why me syndrome.
Right. And at the time, I really did not get it, and yet I had a total knowingness, and I could see them, working with other people, and I knew I was highly protected. I mean, it was always there. It's just very interesting to me that I was in the process of expanding all my concepts myself, I think. When this happened, and I knew, like I said, all my life I knew I was being prepared for something, no matter how difficult my personal life was. At one point, I did some automatic writing, and this was in 94. And, my question was, why did I choose such a difficult life? And the answer was, which I thought was very interesting, you wanted to experience it all in every aspect of emotion. Of course, because of the work I do, it makes perfect sense today. It was all in preparation.
So you're an intuitive also? Are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so do you see, feel, hear all the E of above?
Well, I do. I do the sessions, from most of them in channel. The majority of the session is done in channel.
Okay.
I didn't start the sessions in channel. And what was interesting is, when this happened, and I told my children, I'm moving to Las Vegas, everything was provided. The home had already been picked out. They were already building the clinic when I walked in the door of this rental.
Good.
Everything was already done. It was even on the television here that the meteorologist could not explain the clouds sitting over my house.
Wow.
There was no meteorological explanation for what all the phenomena that was going on.
Did your psychic gifts open up further after your contact with them, or were they already
I would say my gifts had always been there.
there? Okay.
And I absolutely had this knowingness, not, I would give people with readings and so on, but I never charged for anything I did.
Okay.
And I always had this sensing that it wasn't time. And I've had the gift of healing from the time I was a child. I've had many gifts. But I never wanted to take people's power away. That's a really big issue for me. The goal here is empowerment, not, I don't want people dependent.
Oh, I agree.
Okay? The whole goal was that this is to help others move into their great work, to become more of who they are, to live the magnificent lives that they came here to live.
So,
And
Jackie, one of the things that you said that interests me is that, why did you choose this sort of life? And one of our guests in our virtual auditorium is asking whether or not there is some sort of contract that is made with extraterrestrials or those beings from another star system before we enter here on Earth.
The answer to that would be yes. It is always optional because we're on a planet of free will. I would say to you that I, and people that know me would tell you the same thing. I'm more E.T. than I am human. There is no record of my father or his. Believe me, we've been searching this for, I can't tell you how many years.
No record of your father?
No, we've gone through all of we've done everything possible to determine. He's dead. We know that he's dead. But there is no record of his history through all the census studies and so on and so forth. He came over from Ireland, etc. There's nothing. And, in 1910, 20, and 30, that was the most comprehensive census ever done. And especially for those that came into the country, there's just no record. So, am I, who knows?
I don't think I've ever heard anybody, talk about that where they could not find anything, any history of
Well, it's interesting in my work, I have run into hybrids. And, am I one? I don't know. People have said, well, are you a walk-in from when you died? I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I would say this to you.
Glad you said that. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm more of who I am. I am more, today than I was when I died. Now, does that make me a walk-in? I don't know. Okay, I've had walk-ins tell me I don't know that that's true or not true.
Now, explain, Jackie, I understand what a walk-in is, but explain to our listening audience exactly what a walk-in truly is.
Okay, and this is a real dicey subject because the typical human understanding of a walk-in is that there is an agreement between two souls, that if one, rather than physically totally dying, as the one is dying, the other soul takes over.
Okay.
And retains all of the memory of the previous soul. I can't answer that, and nobody has definitively. I've never been told by anyone that I was. I certainly have not, held on to that at all.
Well, it's something I think that it's very personal that you would know yourself because there is a difference. There's got to be a difference between your soul and the new soul that's in you, and whether the new soul comes in just to finish whatever they needed to finish here, and that's why there's that trade-off there.
Well, I'm going to give you a concept that may just completely rock your world, but I will tell you that in the work that we're doing now, and I always say we because we all work together.
Okay.
This is a group endeavor. If I say to them, I want to do more with the screens and let's develop this or do, then they work with it. Again, I'm the human. I am the vehicle. I'm the one that has the free will. this is my race at this point in my planet.
You're an Earthling. Okay.
Okay? So I get to, if they can give me instructions, to do this or do that, but I have to make the choice to do it. Now, and likewise, they love creating things, that if I dream up something and say, well, let's try this or try that, there's a whole lot of stuff that it moves into motion. And just to give you an idea, when somebody books a session, the moment they book a session, the team comes to see them instantly. And they sense that there are beings there. They can't see them, but they sense this love. Prior to their session, they have a visit in the dream state where they feel that they are being, there are doctors there and they're being, treated. They're on a table. Never frightening. Never, ever frightening. And that happens prior to their first session. So they have 2 visits usually prior to their first session.
Wow.
So, Jackie, do you think that we're all visited by ETs?
Okay.
Or do you believe that just select individuals are?
That's a really good question. I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
I have to be honest with you. I really don't know.
Well, has there been any sort of communication, Jackie, in all the years that you've received communication? Any explanation why there would be abductions or certain families or individuals that have been selected for, visits like in communion?
Okay. Now now you're talking about the Greys, which is a whole different situation. Okay? But just so you understand, I don't work with the Greys. I do a lot of work with people who've had detainment. I call them detainment rather than abduction experiences.
Right.
Those experiences happen by agreement prior to coming into this lifetime, and others, because this is not just, you actually sign a contract and agree that, it makes perfect sense when you're on the other side of the veil. Okay, you're doing this, that makes sense to me, sure, no problem, I'll cooperate. Of course, we come to Earth, get total amnesia, don't remember a damn thing, and get scared to death.
Right.
So we do a process. We found a way to backdoor this without creating fear, where we take people back to childhood in a moment. When I'm channeling, the energy is not only are they there in your room working on you over the phone, when I do sessions over the phone, but the energies that come through the phone are so amazing, the beings that come through me. And they are able to transport you into a situation in a moment. In a moment. No regression, no this, it's just boom, you're there. Take you back to childhood, to your bed, okay? And they seem to know what age that is exactly. And they very gently have you look out the window or at the closet, pay attention to your physical body and so on and so forth, until the body starts to respond, and the body will start to respond traumatically. It will start vibrating, and the fear, the tension comes into the body. From that point, they take you directly aboard ship as an adult human, so that you're in what I call the ante-room. Okay, there's always a senior being there. And then they take you through a process where if you have hybrid children, the children are brought forward. They will never tell you that you do. They will open the experience to you so that you can actually garner complete contact with these children. Generally, they will only bring two forward in the beginning. It is quite astounding. And somehow that process seems to, over a period of about 2 months, unweave all the fear and trauma that people have had from these experiences. Now, we also do what we call a power retrieval from the abduction experience.
A what?
A power retrieval.
And what is that exactly?
Okay, this is a very complex. We work in the chakras, which are portals. Second chakra specifically, a lot more in the second chakra than the others. Okay.
Right.
We begin in the second chakra, which holds all of our karmic contracts. This is where you are seated, where you are held, during pregnancy. This is where lineage, all kinds of stuff is, okay? Past lifetimes, so on and so forth. So we do a lot of work in the second chakra. And there are volunteers that come in to do the power retrieval. They take on holographic chakras because they don't have chakras, okay? So there will be, a lot of times it'll be a gray, sometimes grays, reptilians, praying mantis. But they come in very lovingly to be the surrogates for this experience. And we work in their second chakra and in the client's second chakra to retrieve power and take all of these experiences as they come up, different things come up in the second chakra, to take them out of the chakra, out of this portal, if you will. And to retrieve it like hooks. There'll be big golden hooks where you're hooked in from the experiences, out of fear, trauma. Again, this stuff is done in a way, chains, ropes, or cords, and there'll be a lot of emotion on these as you pull them out, the traumatic experiences and so on, where you're retrieving your power from it. And this stuff works. I can tell you that this is I've done, in less than 4 years, I've done almost 4,000 sessions.
Wow, that's a lot. Well, I don't want to base the show on abductions or anything because you're about healing. Really are about healing. But I do
Well, that's also a healing process, so don't forget that there are people that have these that really need healing.
There's something really important I want to base this on because you says a question was asked on your site. I've been abducted and I was terrified. And why is this different? But I want to make more importantly is that it says you will be marked by them and no more abductions will occur from the other races or groups. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. If people choose, that's the reason that we unite them with their hybrid children.
Okay.
We allow them to make a decision. Do they want to continue to participate? Now, see, some of their hybrid children are working aboard ships with a multitude of races, including the Greys, okay, in terms of trying to help evolve the human race. And if their hybrid children are working from a scientific level or doing this or doing that, sometimes their children will take them on a tour of the ship, show them what they're doing and why, that they're creating new races that are populating the universe and so on. And, this is so much bigger than I can explain in an hour, obviously.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And at some point I need to write a book.
You do. You do.
Absolutely, because it is a fascinating subject, Jackie.
Right, it is. And, I again, no fear. We try to do it with great clarity and love and understanding. But, in terms of then we have to give them the option. Do you choose not to participate any longer? Because we know that some people in their dream state, when they're moving back and forth, they may be working aboard ship with a Gray.
Right.
Dr. John Mack, who was one of my mentors, and Harvard professor, Pulitzer Prize winner, his patients used to see him aboard ship during their abduction when he was still alive.
Wow.
So this is stuff that we, and I was going to tell you earlier, also to give you another piece. Many people, and this one just kind of I had to kind of just, is that now we are encountering other races that are piggybacking in your lifetime with you and co-participating in your life experience that you may not even you wouldn't be aware of. Some of them come in through the Hall of Learning and are strictly observers. It's really fascinating.
We are categorize these as extraterrestrials and not just basically spirit or a human spirit is in that form on it.
This is where we get, and this is some of the stuff, anybody who's a psychic, remember that extraterrestrials, their frequencies are so high, you're not going to see them, you're going to sense them. Many times you will sense them as spirits or this or that and not really understand that they may be, because sometimes they're just balls of light.
Okay, wait, stop. Say that again?
Sometimes they're just balls of light.
Okay, weren't we talking about that earlier, Angela?
Yes,
yeah,
about
we were.
Orbs from other dimensions.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So, we were working on someone the other day, and there was it was a life partners, okay, male, female, and we were working on the life partner, and in his second chakra there was this being, and the realization of the person we were working with was, oh my God, this being belongs with me. And her life partner had been holding this being because she had not been ready to take it on. And it had been waiting for her, and literally she took it in, and it took her, weeks to really integrate this being in with her. So we are an amalgam, and that's the next piece. When I do the next intensive, it will be helping people to connect with this amalgam that they are carrying.
And the chakras being is on each chakra, it's a different frequency level, vibrational level. Is that
chakras? This is when we're working in the chakras, they're portals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Traveling through chakras, we were working with someone. She's 40, and we've done a lot of work together over the years. And we were traveling through going to other planets, and Maldek, which imploded, which was the second Earth experiment, different places, retrieving her power and magic from these other traumatic experiences in other lifetimes that she's had as extraterrestrial lifetimes, which we've all had, by the way.
Right.
And
aren't we extraterrestrials ourselves too?
Well, again,
we just call ourselves human.
Okay. As a race, we are the only race in the cosmos that carries the genetics, to some degree, of 21 different races.
Oh, well, now I understand that. Okay.
All right? So we are highly unusual. So people, the typical question to me is, am I from Sirius? Am I from the Pleiades? You're from everywhere.
Okay.
Okay? When you limit yourself, you may have come into this life experience through Sirius, through the Pleiades, through Orion, through whatever. But that is not the limit of your extraterrestrial experience. You are far older than that.
Can we reincarnate into an alien, into another form?
Oh, yes. And, for people who are questioning any of this, I would always recommend that they read Dolores Cannon's book. The Custodians, start with the Custodians and then go on to Convoluted Universe, book 1, 2, and 3. And there was a being that came to me. I didn't even know who Dolores was. Introduced themselves as the doctor and asked me to contact her. And when I went to meet her daughter, I said, well, this being came, the doctor, blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, that's who's responsible for all these books. And I went, oh, holy crap.
Right.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah. Well, because now that I just asked that one question, I have to follow it up with one other one. It could be that the reason why some people are contacted from aliens more because they have been one themselves in a prior life, and there's still that connection?
Yes. And, but yes and yes. There are many people who have chosen to come in and have human life experiences, and including those that are grays. And, Bashar has said, they are us, we are them. And, nobody has really yet defined the relationship of the grays to the humans, other than they have some kind of special dispensation to be doing the work that they're doing on humans. And I do not perceive, now, and again, this is a whole other program.
Right.
When you start talking about, on the other side of the veil, we are dealing with there is no time. Past, present, and future all exist in the same now moment, which means if you're a being on the other side of the veil, you can be aware of all your lifetimes, past, present, and future, all at the same time. This is where we're going as we move through the ascension process. So, again, if you talk to somebody, on our planet, okay, 1,000 years ago, they're fairly primitive versus who they are today. Well, the same thing with some of the extraterrestrial races they may not have been quite as aware, okay? People often ask me, well, what about the negative ETs? And that's the one I always go, oh, God, here we go.
Right, and we were getting some questions about that in the virtual auditorium on it. Is there a certain type of extraterrestrial that is that we accuse of abductions on it?
Say that again.
Okay. What I mean of this is that, being that, well, we'll mention the grays. The fact is it's a documentation of people who have been abducted. To me, it's against your own free will. The fact is, because it's not a very nice experience But
well,
that is
again, it's already been agreed to, but it is perceived. This process is part of the opening of human consciousness.
Okay, I
It
understand
has
what you mean.
two levels. One is to help transmute fear on a very large scale. Now, that's a real hard concept. Like I said, it's a whole other show because humans have a hard time wrapping their mind around that. But the people who volunteered to participate in these experiences understood that they would help shift the collective in a big way by dealing with the fear aspect of detainment. That's a big piece. I hope you wrapped your mind around
Yeah,
that.
It did. Thank you.
So, Jackie, where do you see the ET Healing Clinic going from this point on? What are the plans in the near future?
Well, we're going to start doing intensives and reaching larger groups of people. They want me to step out more. The goal and the reason I've taken so long to do it is getting my own energy under control because the frequencies that I work in are very, very high. And it's taken me a long time to get myself to the point where I can do this and move out to do it with larger groups of people.
Okay.
And
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay, at some point we will be teaching and training people, but you know there is a level of huge level of responsibility with this. And we've been building protocols now for 4 years, things that are teachable. And the protocols are you don't take people's power. They must have intentions. I don't work on anybody unless they have written intentions.
Okay.
That's permission. Okay? I have a real big issue about that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is a matter of people giving their permission, being willing to do the work. Once they start participating, they become part of a huge group of beings that have all been worked on, where they have more access and contact than they can imagine at this pool. And this is clients that have come back and told me this, where their whole lives have changed. They're, letting go of all the trauma, drama, taking their power, finding their highest truth, how they can bring forward their great work, changing relationships, healing their relationships with parents, because this is where it all begins, and all the projections from there, because we're a planet where we experience ourselves as separate, and especially separate from our source. The first thing we do is project Goddess onto Mom and God onto Dad.
Right.
And we continue doing that all through our lifetime. So we have to go back and heal the source of that lineage, what I call the familial chain of pain. And
do they have a God?
Huh?
Do they have a God?
Does who have a God?
Does aliens, do they consider their God our God, if that's their belief system,
They refer to source rather
okay.
than to God.
Okay.
And our structure on this planet is somewhat different. Is there a God? Is there a goddess? Yes. Okay. Is there God, goddess, all that is? They refer to all that is. They refer to creation. They refer to source. But remember, they have great compassion for us because they recognize, and that's the reason we're getting so much attention, that operating under the premises that we've had to operate on this planet, to come as far as we have come is a miracle, and they know it.
Right. We have 2 minutes left on it. God, time is flying by so fast on it. And so, Angela, let's give out her website, and then also to any information that you want to also include with that, Jackie.
It's www.ethealing.com. There's a link to the radio, which is on bbsradio.com, Thursday nights, 8 o'clock Pacific time. All of the shows are in the archives. You'd have to sign up for them, but the energy that comes through is amazing. There's a whole series on ending shame, and then we've been working in the shadow. I have really the most important thing I can say to all of you. Our goal is to forgive ourselves and to love ourselves. If you love yourself enough, you can move mountains.
Oh,
and
this is
anything
true.
and everything that's in the way of loving yourself, any kind of fear, anything that you hold against anyone or yourself, those are the things that we're here to help you undo so that you can become fully empowered. That's the goal, and remember who you really are.
Oh, that was lovely. Thank you so much for that. Well, thank you for joining us, and everybody, that's the end of our show, and everybody have a great week ahead of you. Take care of yourself and each other. Angela, it's been a great show again.
Absolutely, and thank you, Jackie, for joining us today.
I'll have her back.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful.
You're welcome so much.
Bye-bye.
Everybody, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
God bless.
I know too fast.
I wasn't in love with you.